Today we're breaking down 30 upcoming games that were announced throughout 2020. Now, there were a lot of new announcements, so there's a lot to get to. Keep in mind, our rules for this list, it's games announced in 2020. So if there's a game you might think is missing from this list, like say Dying Light 2, Elder Scrolls 6, Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2, Deathloop, Back 4 Blood, Scorn, Atomic Heart, even Halo Infinite, stuff like that, it's because those were announced earlier. These are all the things announced in 2020, so buckle up and let's get started off with number 30 and talk about State of Decay 3. To be honest, there's not much info on it. All we have is this honestly very cool cinematic trailer where zombie deers are confirmed, which I think are terrifying as somebody who has always been just weirdly creeped out by deers. Anyway, crafting arrows at a campfire seems to be a thing. Maybe a bigger emphasis on crafting this time around. That's roughly all we know. We know the same team is working on it. State of Decay 2, over the course of its life, had been updated to become a much stronger game. And honestly, a third outing with a big overhaul could be even more exciting. Next at number 29, speaking of exciting, we have Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League. This takes place in the Arkham universe, apparently after the events of Batman Arkham Knight. There's an open world Metropolis as the game world. You can play as Deadshot, Harley Quinn, Captain Boomerang, King Shark. It can be played solo or 4-player cooperative, and apparently the story centers around Brainiac attacking Metropolis and mind-controlling Superman, and presumably the rest of the Justice League members, so it's up to the Suicide Squad to apparently save the world by kicking Superman and company's ass, which sounds creative, sounds really cool, it sounds really ambitious, and we're hoping it pans out. If anyone can do it, Rocksteady probably can. Now over at number 28, since we're talking about Batman, let's talk about Gotham Knights. Now this is the one that does not take place in the Arkham universe. This is an action role-playing game where you can choose from 4 different members of the Bat family. It's Batgirl, it's Robin, Red Hood, and Nightwing, and they each have their own moveset and abilities and gadgets and stuff. This can be played solo or co-op with drop-in, drop-out co-op. Apparently in this story, Batman and Commissioner Gordon are dead, and it's up to the Bat family to keep Gotham safe. Apparently the Court of Owls are involved. They seem to be the big bad. We did get to see a cool fight against Mr. Freeze. It looks over the top. A lot of Arkham style combat, but you know, in a little bit of a different universe, maybe they can do different things here. We're cautiously optimistic. This could be really cool, so keep your eyes peeled. Now over at number 27, we have Final Fantasy 16. This is a PlayStation exclusive, seemingly, and it takes place in the world of Atheia, which is filled with mother crystals that people use to conjure up magic. It's just some very Final Fantasy type stuff. The lead characters are Clive Rossfield, Joshua Rossfield, and Jill Warwick, and the combat looks similar to Final Fantasy 15, but way more action-packed and even more over the top. We're kind of getting some Devil May Cry vibes, but obviously this is going to be more of an RPG, so we're excited to see how that all comes together. Not a lot is known about this, but I expect a lot more info to come out about this very soon, but for now, we're just looking forward to it. Next at number 26, we have Werewolf The Apocalypse, Earthblood. Yes, that is the title. Werewolf, The Apocalypse, Earthblood. You play as a werewolf who is fighting an oil company who is destroying the world. You can switch between 3 different forms. There's human form for interacting with the environment and doing stuff. There's wolf form for exploration and sneaking around. And then there's the big old werewolf monster that's good for combat and exploding things and doing stuff. These 3 forms let you kind of play how you want. It's like stealth or going in loud. It looks really cheesy and maybe even kind of busted in certain ways, but it's got that cool Xbox 360, PS3 era kind of thing. Just that like mid-2000s action game that people really like. It looks like Prototype. It looks like Werewolf Prototype, and you know what? I'm interested. But next at number 25, speaking of interesting, we have Hitman 3. This is absolutely more Hitman of the newer vein of Hitman games. If you've played the last 2, you know exactly what you're getting here. It is important to note that there is full PSVR support, so you can now know what murder actually really feels like. It's also coming to Nintendo Switch, and that's the first time a Hitman game is on a Nintendo console since Hitman 2 Silent Assassin back in the day. Also, this game has overhauled graphics. IO Interactive has really done a massive overhaul. The first thing they really showed off about this game were the new graphical tricks, and they look unbelievable. The game will also retroactively optimize the previous 2 games. All 3 games worth of content will take up about 100 gigabytes, with Hitman 1 and 2 getting a bunch of different upgrades, like I said, including the visual stuff, and that's a lot of good stuff. Despite their popularity, I can still even go as far as to say I still think they're a little underrated, so keep your eyes peeled on Hitman 3, man. Now next at number 24, we have Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. This is very much the next big PlayStation 5 thing, and it looks absolutely incredible. It was announced during a PlayStation 5 announcement event, and we got to see the game in action with Ratchet launching between multiple worlds almost instantaneously thanks to that PlayStation 4 super fast SSD. The new Rift tether ability just looks straight up awesome. Gameplay-wise though, it does look very Ratchet and Clank. Maybe if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But this is a brand new game. This isn't a remake or a reimagining of any other previous game. We have seen some confusion out there. It is apparently going to have a performance and fidelity mode like how Miles Morales and Demon's Souls did. I guess this is just a thing we're going to see with first-party Sony games now. Also, there is a female Lombax, which is pretty cool. Overall, this just looks like a fun, good, lighthearted romp of sci-fi cool shit. We're really excited. Next at number 23, we have Pragmata. This is a brand new IP from Capcom, and it is some sci-fi as heck stuff. Honestly, we're getting a little bit of Hideo Kojima Death Stranding vibes here. You play as this spaceman who carried this weird canister on their back, which seems to have a bunch of different uses. The first time we see him shoot a canister, that lets him play back what happened on the city street they're walking on. It spawns a girl. Like the second time, they shoot a canister that releases a net that catches a space station that's falling out of the sky. There's a lot to unpack here. The abilities seem crazy. We don't know too much more, but it does seem like it's going to be a very trippy and weird and creative game. Now over at number 22, we have Kina, Bridge of Spirits. This is a narrative-driven action RPG where you play as this spirit guide, and you're able to build a little stream of spirits. You can acquire new abilities for them, as well as new ways to manipulate the environment. It just looks like it has a very cool, unique art style, maybe with a little bit of Pixar vibes and maybe some fun puzzles. The combat looks fast-paced and a lot of fun. And if you're just looking for something unique and lighthearted, maybe keep your eye on it. Now next over at number 21, we have Gran Turismo 7. This is the next-gen Gran Turismo game. Career mode is returning. Vehicle tuning is returning after being absent from GT Sport. Performance points make a return. GT Auto is back. Scapes is coming over from GT Sport if you're into just general car photography and stuff, with the visuals here looking downright jaw-dropping. It's definitely going to take advantage of the PlayStation 5. The Gran Turismo games always do, even if they take a long time to release. Hopefully we really see it this year, because this one could really be something else. Now over at number 20, we don't know too much about it, but we have Project Athia. This is the first game from the new studio's Luminous Productions. This has members of the Final Fantasy 15 development team, so it is very notable. But this is a brand new IP, and it is a PlayStation and PC exclusive. From what we have seen, you seem like a mage sort of character with some sort of environmental or magical abilities. That's all we really know, but we think the potential is high, considering when you think about the people working on the game behind the scenes. There's something possibly really awesome here. Now over at number 19, we have Returnal. This is the new Housemarque game. The people behind Dead Nation, Alien Nation, Resogun. It's a PlayStation 5 exclusive, and you play as Celine, a space scout stuck in a time loop where she's endlessly resurrected and she's stuck on this hostile planet. It's a roguelike, and there's exploration elements, and they've gone on record saying this thing will make use of the DualSense triggers, with every weapon apparently having different firing modes, and the adaptive triggers and the amount you squeeze them will help you switch between things. It sounds like it could be pretty creative and cool. We've gone on record saying we really like the DualSense controller, and the combat just looks crazy and intense and insane. A lot like their other games, but this time obviously way more 3D and just on a bigger scale. We're pumped for this one. Now over at number 18, we have the Outlast Trials. This was actually teased in 2019, but it was officially announced in 2020, and it's not a sequel to the other Outlast games. It's actually about test subjects and mysterious experiments during the Cold War, set in the same world as the previous games. That's all we really know. The initial teaser image led a lot of people to speculate that maybe it's like a cooperative experience. Whatever it is, it's probably going to be a scary blast, because the developers behind the Outlast games do a really good job, so we're looking forward to it. Now next over at number 17, we have Scarlet Nexus. This is an anime-style action RPG developed by Bandai Namco. You control one of two characters who are members of the Other Suppression Force, kind of a force tasked to defend the world from these creatures. There are different powers you can work on and upgrade through a skill tree, and there's full progression. And it looks like a really good blend of like sci-fi, supernatural, cool stuff. Not too much more on it right now, but it is slated for mid-2021. Now next at number 16, we have Evil West. This was announced at the Game Awards in 2020, and this thing looks wild. This is another game that looks like it's kind of a callback to those early mid-2000s Xbox 360, PS3 era action games. This is like some sort of over-the-top supernatural cowboy action game. The combat is said to be visceral. It's also going to be single player or cooperative, and it's being published by Focus Home Interactive, who take on and publish very creative, very interesting games, even if sometimes they fall short. I just appreciate what they always do, so I've got my eye on Evil West big time. Horror, cowboy, murder, action, monster fighting sounds really cool. Now over at number 15, we have Monster Hunter Rise. This is a new Monster Hunter specifically for the Nintendo Switch. There was a time where Nintendo platforms were the main place to really get that full, true Monster Hunter experience. Then, of course, Monster Hunter World changed everything, of course, and was amazing on all platforms, but Monster Hunter Rise really looks like a return to that classic form, but taking some of the newer creative things from World, if that makes sense. Maybe I'm contradicting myself a little bit, but I'm excited to see what they do here, and it's releasing apparently March 26th, 2021. Now next at number 14, we have Century, Age of Ashes. This is a PvP, PvE, dragon aerial dogfighting game. It's like Ace Combat, but with dragons, and that's honestly pretty awesome. They've been working on this one for a while. There's been some early access stuff. We've talked about it on the channel before. We do think it's pretty interesting, and it's gonna be a PC game that you're gonna be able to get your hands on February of 2021. Now next at number 13, we have the Callisto Protocol. This thing looks insane. This was teased at the Game Awards with a cinematic trailer, a dude in jail in space jail, and of course, a big gross monster tries to kill him. This is very much, and they're not messing around, this is a spiritual successor to Dead Space, with many of the people behind this game, including the lead, actually from Visceral Games, from the Dead Space days, so we're really excited to see where they could take this. But it is, of course, its own new game, its own new thing, its own new story, and it takes place actually in the PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds universe, which is very weird. Why would they do that? Why couldn't it just be its own thing? Maybe it's marketing, maybe it'll be interesting, I don't know, but the actual game itself is going to be a survival horror game, and we still don't get enough of those now, so we're really, really pumped for this one, seriously. This is releasing in 2022 though. Now next down at number 12, we have Season. This is an exploration-focused game with a really, really cool, very distinctive art style that made a big splash when it was announced at the Game Awards. This is going to be a PlayStation 5 title on PC as well, focused around discovering past cultures. It's got a little bit of Studio Ghibli vibes, but also its own thing, of course. And from music to visuals to color to hopefully gameplay, this could be a really satisfying experience, but we don't know yet. This one is still just slated as TBA. Now next at number 11, it's much to the surprise of us announced at the Game Awards, Evil Dead, the game, is a thing. It's from Saber Interactive and Boss Team, and it is a co-op and PvP style game focused around just raw gameplay. There's skill tree and progression among just multiple maps, characters, and weapons where you kill a bunch of stuff. Bruce Campbell is actually Ash, like he's in the game, so we're excited to see that. He's of course no stranger to video games, but we're really hoping they can take this one far because there's always so much potential with Evil Dead, and we haven't had like a cool Evil Dead video game in a very long time, so we welcome this one with open arms. Number 10, we have Ark II. This is the next Ark game, and Vin Diesel's in it. Yes, you saw that teaser trailer announced not too long ago, the cinematic trailer with Vin Diesel himself in the game. Ark has had a very long-lasting and very interesting life, embraced by a lot of people, a massive community, so we're really excited to see what they can do with like a next generation Ark game. An Ark game that like pushes the game into the future. What else can they do? Can they break new ground? I'm really excited to see. Apparently Vin Diesel himself is actually working on the game in some capacity, which is wild, but not really. He does have a past in video game development, but I digress. Ark II is probably something we're gonna be talking about a lot. But next over at number 9, we have Stalker II. This kind of resurged, it kind of revived itself in 2020 as a thing that's actually still happening. We got a glimpse of in-engine gameplay recently. It looks very pretty. It's mostly just kind of like panning around environments, but still pretty much what you would expect from a Stalker game. The original, of course, was an absolutely revolutionary PC game. It's like the PC gamer's game, and I'm really excited to see what they could do here with this one. We don't have a lot of information on it yet, but this one has been in development, or at least in the works in some way, for a very long time, so we're pumped. Next, over at number 8, we have Avowed, also announced in 2020. This is a new Obsidian RPG for Xbox and PC. Yes, remember when Microsoft and Xbox bought Obsidian to make some games for them? This is the big one. This is Avowed, and it seems like it's sort of like a fantasy, Elder Scrolls-y, Game of Thrones type of thing. All we have is a very, very brief teaser trailer. You've probably seen it 1,000 times by now. It seems like there's magic, seems like there's swords and bows and arrows, and if you ask me, those things belong in RPGs, so that's what we got, and we're looking forward to it. Now next over at number 7, we have the sequel to Horizon Zero Dawn. It's Horizon Forbidden West. this thing looks absolutely gorgeous. From what we've seen so far, it looks like Aloy is taking on new creatures, new environments, and this thing is probably going to really flex the PlayStation 5's muscles. Guerrilla makes some damn good games, and we're excited to see where they take her story next, and really how much further they can develop this new and interesting world they created. There's some sort of corruption going on, and of course I bet Aloy is the one to stop it. My only hope is that we just don't have to wait too long for this one, you know? Anyway, moving on at number 6, we have Far Cry 6. This, as you know, was announced in 2020, and it stars Giancarlo Esposito himself. Yes, Moff Gideon, Gustavo Fring, insert bad guy. He's the bad guy for this next Far Cry game, and it's got a bit of a revolution theme with you fighting back, and apparently it is going to have one of the biggest city environments that a Far Cry game has ever had, so I'm really curious to see how that can change the dynamic, because I was hoping Far Cry 5 would feel wildly different than previous games, and it didn't quite. So maybe Far Cry 6 is going to be the one to really push the Far Cry series into a completely new level, kind of like how Far Cry 3 did. We shall see though, it seems pretty cool. It has been delayed a few times since it was initially announced, but we're excited to see what it is. Next at number 5, announced at the end of 2020, Perfect Dark. The new Perfect Dark game is coming for PC and Xbox eventually. This is that new studio that was formed by Xbox to make this game, and we got a teaser with Joanna Dark. That's about it. That's all we really know. I know Rare isn't working on it, and that's kind of a bummer, but you could really do anything with a Perfect Dark series at this point, so who knows what's going to happen with this one. I think the potential is high though, so you should keep an eye on it. Now over at number 4, we have Hogwarts Legacy. Now this game was leaked a long time ago, but it was finally officially announced during a PS5 event in 2020, and it's an action RPG adventure set in the late 1800s with you being a student of Hogwarts. You can take classes, you can make potions, you can learn, you can develop your character, you can go to the Forbidden Forest, you can go to Hogsmeade. Of course, this is all with a character that you create, you build up. Apparently, there's also a morality system, which I'm very curious to see in action. I'm also just curious to see how they can expand the world of Harry Potter, because the Fantastic Beasts movies are kind of whatever, but there's so much more potential for cool creatures and cool villains and stuff like that, so we're excited. Judging by the leaks, this one's been in the works for a long time too, so maybe we'll see it in 2021. Now down to number 3, we have the new Mass Effect game. This was announced, and BioWare is officially working on it, while also apparently working on Dragon Age, while also apparently working on fixing Anthem still. We don't know much, but this Game Awards announcement was pretty cool. It seems like it might take place after Mass Effect 3, but there's still a lot of speculation out there, so we're not going to say anything definitively. Still, we're willing to give Mass Effect more shots because it is just such a cool sci-fi universe. Yes, Mass Effect Andromeda wasn't so hotly received, but still the potential is always going to be there because Mass Effect, the original trilogy, was incredible. We're really excited to see what this one brings to the table, especially with like the next generation of gaming. But down number 2, we have Resident Evil 8 or Resident Evil Village or whatever. This was announced at a PlayStation 5 stream and it looks damn incredible. It is a direct follow-up to Resident Evil 7, but seemingly introducing a lot more Chris Redfield into the story, which is all I wanted as an old school Resident Evil fan. I want that weird stuff to come back, and it seems like we're getting weird stuff here with a Resident Evil 4 vibe with like centered around a village, spooky castle, crazy townspeople, and of course, werewolves. Resident Evil werewolves. I think that's all you needed to hear. This is the second time I've referenced werewolves in this video. I don't know what's happening. But down to number 1, of course, you know we were going to say it, God of War Ragnarok. This is the follow-up to the smash hit God of War PS4 game that kind of presented Kratos as an old dad in a new light and a very interesting and fun game. Now we're getting a follow-up to it, and they could really do freaking anything with this one. They teased it, of course, at the end of God of War, but even still, if we know the basic raw setup, there's still so many avenues they could take it, and I would assume that Sony Santa Monica started working on this as soon as they wrapped up with God of War, so I'm really excited to see when this drops, what it's like, who the main players are, and just everything about it. We're so excited for this one. Obviously, it's number 1. It was the coolest thing announced in 2020. But we got some bonus games for you. Of course, a new Skate game was announced this year. Also, Hello Neighbor 2 is now a thing, as well as Unknown 9 Awakening. And last but not least, Tachia, which looks kind of Wind Waker inspired. But those are the coolest games we thought were announced throughout 2020. This was a quick look back, so we want to hear from you guys in the comments. What games announced in 2020 are you looking forward to down the line? Let's talk about anything like this down in the comments. Thank you guys for watching. Hopefully we informed you. Clicking the like button does help us out a lot. We appreciate that. But if you're new, subscribe because we put out videos every single day. But hey, as always, thanks for watching, and we will see you guys next time.